He was just the janitor, quiet, reliable, invisible to most, until one random afternoon, in a hallway full of chatter, someone asked a question in Arabic, and he answered perfectly, fluently. Everyone froze. Then someone shouted, "Say something in Chinese." He did, then German, then Swahili, 7 languages, effortlessly, fluently, without hesitation. And the person standing there, slack-jawed and stunned, wasn't just a student or teacher. It was a two-star-U.S. general. What started as a casual conversation turned into a viral moment that changed lives. Cameras came out, eyebrows raised, but no one saw what was coming next, because this wasn't just a cool talent. This was 20 years of secret struggle, night shifts, cassette tapes, and whispered practice in broom closets. A man the world ignored, now impossible to overlook. And the general, his reaction, let's just say, it gave everyone goosebumps. This isn't a feel-good story, it's a wake-up call, a reminder that hidden greatness walks among us every single day. So before you scroll past, ask yourself, what if the person you've been ignoring holds the wisdom you've been chasing your whole life? Stay with us. You won't believe how this ends. Imagine walking into a building, maybe a school, office, or hospital, and as you head toward the elevator, you notice the janitor humming softly in a language you don't recognize. You pause, you stare. You think, did I just hear Romanian or Thai? What happens next? You blink, you shrug. You ask the same question everyone else is thinking. Hey man, what language was that? And when he answers, oh, it's Georgian, your jaw drops. Because he's not just milling around with a mop. He knows 7 languages fluently. That moment is the jump start of our story today. This isn't some Hollywood script. This is real life. And the look on everyone's face, priceless. This is more than a clip, it's a punch of weight. What? That turns into an emotional roller coaster. That's why we're here, watching General stunned after janitor reveals he knows 7 languages. Watch his reaction. And by the end of this video, you'll feel like you've just been on stage for a TED talk with a twist. Spoiler alert, it's not the languages. It's the surprise, the joy, and the fear that maybe we've all been underestimating somebody's hidden talents. Let's start with the opening seconds. The video kicks in with a fast-cut montage. People in uniforms, security guards, teachers, administrators, pause mid-stride. Their heads tilt, their eyebrows rise. The soundtrack drops into suspenseful chords. My heart picks up, and the screen fades to our janitor, dustpan in hand, planting himself casually in front of the camera. He's calm, twinkling eyes. You think, is this staged? And then someone yells out, "Speak Chinese." He grins, and does it. Perfect Mandarin. The people around him freeze. The music crescendos. How? The first person whispers, "This is trigger 1, curiosity," that primal itch you get when something mysterious happens in front of you. And after curiosity comes trigger 2, FOMO, the fear of missing out. Because, let's be real, we all want to be part of that "did you see that" moment. That's why the video holds us tight from the jump. It's like a language learning trailer. Let's pull back. Slow down, let it breathe. Watch his lips shape words like, and Guten Tag. You can practically taste the foreign accents, all in under 30 seconds. And the editing, trust the precision. Quick zoom-ins on faces, freeze frames on stunned expressions, text overlays like 7 languages. Boom, now your dopamine is dancing. But by the midpoint of part 1, we've got to ground the story. Who is this guy? We drift into a quieter moment. He's in the break room. The questions start. Where'd you learn Russian? That accent? Do you ever teach? He smiles humbly. Travel, radio, friends. There's a gentle beat of vulnerability. You hear the janitor say, "I studied after work. I made flashcards on lunch breaks." That's trigger 3, inspiration mixed with empathy. Because you might be thinking, I can't even learn Spanish. But here he is doing Russian, Hindi, Italian, at night after work. And suddenly, you're re-evaluating your own limits. Aren't we all capable of more? That's the first act, setup. We have the character, Janitor Polyglot. The inciting incident reveals 7 languages, and we've triggered curiosity, FOMO, inspiration, all in the first 2,000 word chunk. We're asking the question implicitly, how did he get here? What's next? And we're building emotional investment in him. Now sprinkle in a bit of humor. Mid-break room, one guy cracks, so is your mop bilingual too. The janitor laughs. The tension drops. We realize this is not a boast fest. It's playful. It's human. We see vulnerabilities when he admits, sometimes I screw up grammar. Relatable. We're not watching a flawless genius. We're watching a real person. A working-class hero with an extraordinary talent. That disconnect, that's what keeps us glued. He fluidly switches languages, German, then Arabic. Each time, the group morphs, miles to disbelief to applause. The emotions build. We sense the arc forming, from I can't believe it, to I want to know him, then I want to be him, then how can I be like him? That's where we land at the end of part 1. We've set the stage. We're emotionally hooked, we're curious, we're inspired, and we're ready for Act Roman 2, the deeper dive into his life, how he learned, the challenges, the sacrifices, the flashbacks to lonely late nights with audio tapes and Duolingo, the high-stakes moments when his skills helped someone. But that's for part 2. Before we close this section, though, let me toss a few retention boosters your way. Questions as patterns interrupts. In the last few lines of part 1, drop in. Ever feel like you were hiding something amazing inside? What's your secret skill no one suspects? Can a janitor really become a language learning guru overnight? Or does it take sweat, tears, and maybe a few big mistakes? These rhetorical questions plant seeds. They make the viewer say to themselves, I'll come back. I have to see the rest. Okay, let's rewind the tape a little. By now, we've all seen the moment that shook the break room. The janitor casually flipping through 7 languages like he was flipping through a Netflix menu. But what if I told you that behind that effortless grin and those multilingual flexes lies a story full of challenges, rejection, and moments of almost giving up? That's right. This wasn't luck. This wasn't born genius. This was built, painfully, quietly, relentlessly. So, who is he really? What drives a janitor to study languages like his life depends on it? We learn that his name is Marcos Ramirez, 49, father of 2, originally from El Paso, Texas. But his journey, it starts much earlier. A grainy old photo flashes across the screen. A boy, maybe 10, sitting cross-legged with a battered cassette player. The voiceover starts, and it's him. Older, calmer. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up knowing any other language but English. But I grew up curious. That saved me. Trigger 4. The underdog story. Because now, we're not just watching someone smart. We're watching someone who earned it, who fought for it. And that tugs at your chest a little, doesn't it? Marcos says it started in 6th grade. He heard a woman at the bus stop speaking to her daughter in Korean. I didn't understand a word, but I remember how it felt. He says, eyes lighting up. It felt like music, like some secret song only a few people could hear. That memory stuck. Fast forward a few years. He's 20 working 2 part-time jobs. His dream, to become a travel guide, but dreams don't pay rent. He ends up taking a custodial position at a local high school. He's sweeping floors, scrubbing tiles, and in his headphones, not music, language podcasts. Every break, every ride home, every quiet hallway, he's listening, repeating, failing, retrying, over and over. No tutors, no Rosetta Stone, just raw, clumsy determination. Now pause, let me ask you something. Have you ever tried learning something big? In the background of your life, like trying to sculpt a masterpiece on your lunch break. Marcos did that for 20 years. By this point in the video, the tone has shifted. We're not laughing at surprise reactions anymore. We're feeling this man's grit. His tired eyes, his calloused hands holding flashcards. The filmmakers drop in one of the most poignant shots. Him sitting in a supply closet, fluorescent light buzzing, mouthing out conjugations in Portuguese. And then we get the turning point. It was 2008. He's helping clean up after a school cultural fair. A general from the army is visiting to speak about military careers. There's a mix-up. A student from a visiting school, who only speaks Arabic, is confused and upset. The teachers don't understand, the principal's panicking, and Marcos, just standing there in the back with his mop, steps forward and says something in Arabic. You see it click. The student calms down. The general pauses, looks at Marcos like he's seeing a ghost. You speak Arabic? He asks. Marcos shrugs a little, just enough to help. That moment, life-changing. The general doesn't just thank him, he invites him to lunch. And there, in the middle of a cafeteria still smelling faintly of gym socks and tacos, Marcos explains, I've been learning languages on my own since I was a teen. No formal classes, just me, and time. And the general, stunned, you're doing what most of our intelligence officers train for years to do. Here's where the video slaps us with trigger 5, recognition, that warm jolt when someone finally sees the quiet work you've been doing for years. Don't we all crave that moment, the I see you, you matter, kind of moment, and suddenly, we viewers are leaning in. It's not about languages anymore, it's about validation. But here's the kicker, it didn't change his life instantly. He didn't get whisked off to D.C. He didn't get a scholarship. Nope. He went back to mopping that afternoon. Just a man with a gift, doing his job. But now, people around him started to take notice. Teachers asked for help translating. Students asked him how to say things in French. One kid even said, you should be teaching here. Let's pause here, humor moment. The camera cuts to Marcos chuckling. They said I should teach. I said, teach what? How to clean a whiteboard in 3 seconds. But behind the joke is truth. He never got a formal offer, never got a teaching certificate. I just kept doing my job and kept learning. And then comes the big fear beat, the low point. In 2015, Marcos was laid off during school budget cuts. Boom, just like that, no warning, they kept the younger guys, said it was about hours. I smiled and packed up my stuff, but inside, I felt erased. Trigger 6, fear of being invisible, that aching gut punch of putting in effort, giving your best, and still feeling disposable. It's a fear so many of us carry, right? What did Marcos do? He went to work at a hotel, night shift janitor, less pay, fewer hours, but more time to study. He saw it as a sign. If they don't see me now, he says, I'll build something they can't ignore. So he started filming short videos. Just him, speaking a different language each day. No effects, no flash, just raw Marcos. They barely got views. But he kept going. It wasn't for likes. He says, it was for proof that I exist, that I've grown. One of those videos, a clip of him explaining Swahili greetings in a service elevator, randomly got picked up by a language learning forum. It went mini-viral, then someone posted it on Reddit, then Facebook. Boom, overnight, he had DM from teachers, speech pathologists, even an Air Force recruiter who wrote, Sir, your accent in Pashto is better than mine. And here's where we circle back to the general. Turns out the man never forgot Marcos. Years later, he sees one of those videos and says that's the janitor from the school. He contacts the school again. This time, the call isn't about recruiting students. It's about honoring someone they overlooked. And just like that, we get the scene that opened this entire story. The surprise recognition moment where the general shows up unannounced. thanks Marcos publicly, and even offers to connect him to military language programs, not for a job, but just as appreciation. The general says it best, "You're a walking reminder that brilliance doesn't always wear a title." Goosebumps, right? Yeah, us too. By the end of part 2, we've gone from surprise to substance, from a cool party trick to a portrait of perseverance. You start to realize this man is who we all want to be: resilient, humble, constantly growing, quietly great. But there's more. In part 3, we're diving into how Marco's language skills saved lives during a crisis at the hotel. Yup, this story keeps leveling up. Plus, we meet the students who now call him Professor M. Even though he still wears his janitor's badge, it's emotional, it's real, and it'll challenge everything you think you know about success. But before we jump ahead, let me leave you with this question. What would happen if you didn't wait for permission to grow? Because Marcos didn't, and look where that took him. Stick around for part 3, and if this story's pulling at something inside you, go ahead and tap that subscribe button. It helps us share stories that matter, stories like this one. If part 1 made you curious and part 2 pulled at your heart, then buckle up, because part 3 is where the story really swings. This isn't just about Marcos knowing 7 languages anymore. This is about how one man's quiet passion ended up saving lives, inspiring a community, and proving that you don't need a title to make impact. You need heart, timing, and one moment to rise. Let's set the scene. It's 2019. Marcos is now working night shifts at a mid-size hotel in downtown Houston. It's a mixed crowd: tourists, business travelers, conference guests. The pay's modest, the hours brutal, but the vibe? Peaceful. He likes the rhythm, the solitude, and the lobby TV, usually playing international news with subtitles, something he secretly loves. One night, around 2:00 a.m., everything changes. There's a knock at the front desk. 2 guests, Middle Eastern, clearly distressed. They don't speak English. The clerk panics. They're pointing to the elevator, saying something rapidly in Arabic, and the clerk just keeps repeating, one moment, trying to stall. Nobody understands them, until Marcos, who's buffing the tile near the vending machine, casually looks up and says, "Is everything okay?" And just like that, connection. The guests immediately switch to Arabic. One is crying, the other explains. Their friend is trapped in the elevator. He has a heart condition. They tried the alarm button, no response. They've been trying to tell someone for 10 minutes. No one understood. In that moment, everything narrows. Marcos runs. He rushes to the basement control room. He explains the situation, calls the maintenance manager, coordinates the elevator release, all the while translating between 2 teams, the hotel staff and the panicked guests. Within 15 minutes, the elevator doors open, and sure enough, there's a man inside, gasping, clutching his chest. EMS arrives just in time. Trigger 7, the hero moment. It's not just adrenaline. It's that powerful, cinematic moment where preparation meets purpose. All those flashcards, all those years. This is why he did it. Not for applause, not for likes, but for this, to matter when it counts. The next morning, the hotel manager writes him up. Not for breaking protocol, but for exemplary action. The guests, they call him an angel. They take a photo with him, post it online. Janitor saves life in Houston hotels. Speaks perfect Arabic. You probably guessed what happened next. The photo spreads like wildfire. The internet's weird like that. What was a simple act of translation becomes a viral story, picked up by local news, then national. One morning, Marcos walks into his shift and sees his own face on the front page of the Houston Chronicle. He laughs, shakes his head. "I didn't do anything crazy. I just listened. But we know better. We know that in a world full of noise, listening is everything. Now let's shift gears a little." Because while the internet was buzzing, something else was happening back at the school where Marcos used to work. A group of students, now older in college, started tagging him in posts, sharing memories. He helped me study French when I was failing. He inspired me to learn Spanish for my grandma. He's the reason I studied abroad. They start calling him something new, Professor M, and he's still a janitor. You see the contradiction, right? Or maybe it's not a contradiction at all. Maybe it's the truth we've all ignored. Your value doesn't depend on your job title. It depends on your contribution. By this point in the video, the tone is triumphant, but grounded. We see Marcos at home, sitting at a worn kitchen table, sipping instant coffee, reading a novel in Italian. We hear him say, the languages, they're just tools. What matters is how you use them. Now for a little comic relief because we've been through an emotional ringer. Cut to him attempting to teach his dog commands in Mandarin. He says, the dog tilts its head. He tries again, Zuozia. The dog just blinks. Okay, he mutters, maybe we start with English. Light chuckle, breathing room, and now we pivot to recognition, not from the general this time, from the people who matter most, the community. The hotel gives him a raise. The local community center invites him to speak. A school district administrator even asks him to help consult on a multilingual inclusion program. He's not teaching in a classroom, but he's educating everyone who meets him. And here's the surprise twist you didn't see coming. A small liberal arts college in Austin sees the viral clip. A dean sends him a message, says, we watched your story. We don't have a language degree to offer you, but we'd like to invite you to give a guest lecture on autodidactic learning. Marcos Googles the word. Autodidactic means self-taught. He laughs. So I'm the poster boy for learning stuff the hard way. Huh? Yup. And the best part, he goes. He gives that lecture. He stands in front of a hall full of grad students, professors, and researchers. All of them there to learn from a janitor. And he opens with this, I'm not here to tell you how to learn 7 languages. I'm here to tell you why learning anything at all, changes your brain, your heart, and how you see the world. Boom. Standing ovation. You see, by now, we're not even tracking the 7 languages anymore. That's not the headline. The headline is that this man, who started out mopping up messes after school, is now mopping up all our excuses. Because if Marcos can do it, in between paychecks, with no credentials, no classes, no encouragement, then maybe so can we. Let's pause here and inject another pattern interrupt question. What if the thing you think you're too old or too busy to do is exactly the thing the world needs you to try? That hits deep, right? Let it sit. It's not just motivation. It's a mirror. As the final segment of Part 3 winds down, we see Marcos walking through his neighborhood, waving at folks, stopping by the library. No paparazzi, no limo. Just the same guy, but more seen now, more heard, and not just in 7 languages, but by thousands of people. That's the emotional payoff of Act Roman 2. The hero doesn't leave his world, he elevates it. In Part 4, we explore how he's using this attention to lift others, mentoring immigrants, helping kids with language barriers, and creating a free language learning kit that's been downloaded over 100 times. But before we go, here's one last moment to seal this part of the journey. He's back at the hotel. A young woman approaches him quietly. Her voice shakes a little. Mr. Ramirez, she asks, you helped my uncle when he didn't speak English. He told me. You made him feel human again. Marcos smiles, nods, and says gently, that's the point. Let that echo a second. We started with a viral video, General stunned by janitor. But what we're witnessing is something far deeper than surprise. We're witnessing the recognition of hidden greatness, of slow, steady self-improvement, of silent, daily discipline that, one day, becomes impossible to ignore. If you've made it this far, you're probably feeling it too. That mix of admiration, motivation, and maybe a little bit of healthy guilt that whispers, what have I been waiting for? Don't let it fade. In Part 4, you'll see how Marcos goes from being recognized to becoming a recognizer, a mentor, a coach, a spark in someone else's quiet journey. And if you felt moved or inspired or even just more curious about your own potential, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. It's a small thing, but it lets us keep sharing stories that remind us that greatness, it's not out there somewhere, it's hidden in plain sight, sweeping a hallway, speaking softly, waiting to be heard. When last we left Marcos, he stood in front of a packed auditorium of academics, not with a diploma, but with 7 languages and a life shaped by discipline and determination. That moment wasn't a finale, it was a bridge. Because real stories don't stop at applause. They move forward, they echo. So what happened next? Hold tight, because this is where the ripple effect starts to wash over real people. And maybe even you. Marcos came back from Austin changed, not by the attention, but by the trust. He realized the true power wasn't in being seen. It was in being shared. He realized that every phrase he'd learned, every accent he'd perfected, wasn't about showing off. It was about building bridges. And the world, it needed more bridges. Word spread. The community center in his hometown asked him to lead a free weekly conversation group for immigrants struggling with English. He said yes. They gave him a tiny room with folding chairs and a whiteboard. Nothing fancy, just space and permission. The first night, 3 families showed up. Honduran, Vietnamese, Ethiopian. They sat in a circle, clutching notebooks, hopeful. He started simply, "Hello, my name is Marcos." He shook their hands. They said theirs. The room filled with nervous laughter. And suddenly, language became something shared, not taught. He offered classes not just in English, but in Spanish to ease transitions, Arabic because so many parents still spoke it at home, and even some Vietnamese. He cycled through all 7 languages because, as he told them, the goal is not fluency. The goal is confidence. Something magical happened. People started swapping stories, not just words. A mom named Mai told him through tears that after 2 sessions, her pediatrician appointment felt less scary. Another man, Ahmed, said he could finally read bedtime stories to his kids without stumbling. Marcos watched their relief, their pride, and felt something shift inside. This wasn't volunteer work. It was mission. The next week, local news ran a story. Hotel janitor turns volunteer teacher. A photo showed Marcos writing, "Today, we practiced talking about your day," on a whiteboard. He smiled, tired but wholehearted. The caption ran, "Learning is contagious." That story, though small, became a spark. Donations came in, board games, picture books, English grammar workbooks. A retired school teacher offered to help. Before long, attendance at his group tripled. The shabby little room filled with laughter, broken English that tried again until it got right, and a sense of family you can't teach in a textbook. Meanwhile, across town at the hotel, things shifted too. Marcos, once the quiet janitor, became a de facto language ambassador. He created laminated translation cheat sheets for common guest interactions. How to ask about room service in French, give directions in Portuguese, calm someone in Arabic. He copied them off at cost and handed stacks to front desk clerks. Management loved it, guests loved it, service ratings skyrocketed. One busy evening, a desperate couple, Japanese speakers, strolled in after a long flight. The clerk fumbled, but Marcos, just off shift, was walking by. He stepped behind the desk, asked in Japanese, "First, can I help you check in?" The couple paused. They smiled brightly. "Yes, thank you." There was a shift, a transformation in atmosphere. They relaxed, breathed. The clerk typed faster. The couple got to bed sooner. Marcos grabbed his cleaning cart quietly and rolled away. But the connection lingered. More ripples. The local chamber of commerce invited him to a panel discussion, multilingual service in hospitality. He agreed, but only after they promised to donate all proceeds to his language program. They did. The panel wasn't full of experts. It was full of those who appreciated common sense and heart. He took the stage humbly and said, "If I can help one person feel seen, I do my job." It got a standing ovation, and let's dig into the emotions here, the moments that make this third act cinematic. Because by now, we're not just watching a feel-good story, we're watching something deeper. Someone who dared to make the unseen visible and now sees that visibility transform others. There's a scene where a young teen named Keisha brings in a home-made thank you card. It's scribbly, colorful. Inside, "Thank you for helping me pass English. I'm going to college." Marcos blinks back tears as she hands it over. Not loud sobbing, just a quiet mist in his eyes, because he knows that she's carrying something forward now and that her life will ripple too. We keep it natural, no scores, no flash frames. Just a shot of Marcos leaving the classroom at night, lights off, board cleaned, door closed, and the camera lingers on that card taped by the door. Gracias, Center. And then comes another shift. A nonprofit focused on adult education reaches out. They propose he teach a weekly free course on self-directed learning. They ask him to co-author a simple guide, start small, keep going, a booklet of stories, tips, and phrases. Sure, he says, if it helps people see they're capable. They say they'll distribute it nationally. Pause for a moment, think about that emotional beat. A man who never finished college is now authoring educational material. It's more than career shift, its mindset. He's teaching others how to learn. Not what to learn, the ripple grows. Towards the end of part 4, we cut to a montage, a bustling adult learning center. Expressions of frustration turning to smiles as people speak with less hesitation. A high school ESL class where teachers ask him to Skype in. Memphis, Los Angeles, Chicago. Distant classrooms, all sitting up to hear a man with a janitor's badge. We don't linger too long, but we don't rush either. Let the impact breathe, because this sets us up for the emotional resolution, realization. The audience gets it. This man didn't start this to go viral. He didn't seek fame. He just gave his curiosity time to grow, and now it's giving back billions of small kindnesses. The payoff isn't clout, it's connection. We could close with another patter. Ninterrupt question. What if you stopped underselling yourself? What if your side project, your lost hobby, your quiet curiosity was exactly what someone else needs today? Boom. That question lands the plane, but we stay for one last crescendo, a final scene that isn't flashy. It's simple. Marcos, on a sunny Saturday, at a community picnic. He's sitting at a long table covered with brightly colored flyers. People wander up, some just say thanks, others ask for tips. Kids try Portuguese tongue twisters. A photographer snaps a group photo. Him, the previous hotel guests whose friend he saved, the families from his classroom. They're smiling, it's real. He laughs as a toddler nearly runs off with his booklet. He bends and helps them practice gracias. The crowd laughs, warm, gentle, and the camera pulls back enough for us to realize Marcos is now not just seen. He's loved, not because he's famous, but because he's helpful, humble, human. Cue soft fey, doubt with text overlay. One person with curiosity plus dedication plus heart equals infinite ripples. So here we are. Full circle. We started with a headline, a viral moment. General stunned after janitor reveals he knows 7 languages. We clicked out of curiosity. We stayed for the surprise, but what kept us, what rooted us in this story, wasn't the general. It wasn't the shock factor, it was Marcos, the man with the mop, the heart, and a mind full of words he never used to impress, but to connect. The truth is, we don't often think of janitors as the protagonists of a life-changing story. And maybe that's the real twist here, not the languages, not the viral video, but the quiet reminder that we walk past greatness every single day. We rush by it in hallways. We overlook it because it's dressed in blue coveralls, not a suit. But greatness doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs purpose and a moment to rise. In the final weeks after Marcos' story went wide, something beautiful started happening, not just in Houston, but all across the country. Emails poured in, messages from teachers, veterans, immigrants, and students. I saw myself in Marcos. I've always wanted to learn again, but thought it was too late. Thank you for showing that kindness matters more than credentials. Some messages were streaked paragraphs. Others were just 2 words, thank you. But the one that Marcos said stuck with him the most came from a young man who wrote, I was ashamed to tell people I clean offices. After your story, I'm proud of what I do, and I'm learning Spanish again. That's the ripple. That's legacy, not statues, not stages, but quiet courage spreading into the lives of people who thought their story didn't matter. And Marcos, he's not done. He's still mopping floors, still practicing Swahili phrases, still showing up to his weekend language sessions with his tattered binder and a coffee-stained flashcard box that's held together with a rubber band. But now, people see him, and more importantly, he sees himself differently, not as someone who missed out on dreams, but as someone living a purpose that's rippling into hundreds of lives. And maybe you're sitting there, watching this, thinking, that's incredible, but it's not me. I've got a job, a family. I don't have time to learn 7 languages. And that's okay. Because the real message here isn't go master a new skill overnight. The message is, start small, stay curious, keep going. Whether you're 25 or 65, whether you're changing careers or changing diapers, your capacity to grow has no expiration date. The world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more people willing to learn out loud, willing to ask questions, willing to look foolish before they look fluent, willing to be seen, not for what they have, but for what they're becoming. And that's why this story matters, because it reminds us nobody is just anything, not just a janitor, not just a clerk, not just a mom, not just a retiree. Everyone carries something beautiful inside them, waiting to be cultivated. All it takes is one habit, one spark, one brave moment where you stop asking, who am I to do this? And start asking, what happens if I try? Marcos's life didn't change all at once. It changed every time he opened that notebook, every time he repeated a phrase under his breath while pushing a mop, every time he chose growth over excuses. He didn't do it to be famous. He did it because something inside him said, there's more in me than this. And maybe that same voice is inside you, whispering, waiting. So here's the truth. If you've made it all the way to the end of this story, it's not by accident. Something in you resonates. Something in you recognizes that spark of potential. Maybe it's been buried. Maybe it's just been waiting for permission to surface. So consider this your permission slip. Start the thing, learn the thing, ask the question, write the sentence, practice the skill. Show up even if nobody claps, even if nobody sees. Do it anyway, because the people who change the world rarely start with applause. They start with consistency. And hey, if this story moved you, if it lit something in your chest, if it made you rethink what's possible in your own quiet journey, then do us one favor. Hit that subscribe button, not because we want numbers, but because we want to keep sharing stories that remind you how powerful you already are. Stories that lift us up, challenge us, and pull us toward our best selves. And if you know someone who needs this message, send it to them. Be their ripple, because you never know. You might be someone else's Marcos. You might be the reason they decide to believe in their value again. So until the next story, stay curious, stay kind, and above all, never forget, the most extraordinary lives are often hiding in the most ordinary places. You just have to look closer.